Hello, hello, everybody. Let me make sure stream is actually up. Do a little tech test. You know the gist. Fix my hair. I shaved. Oh, it's gonna be a fun stream. It's gonna be a fun stream. Okie doke. Audio's all working properly. How are we doing, Broncos country? It is a wonderful Wednesday evening. I hope everyone else is having a great night. Try and let a couple of people trickle in, see if we can capture the hearts and minds of anybody. While we're doing that, though, let's take a look at the standings. Let's take us a look at the standings. AFC East is definitely one and gone. Buffalo ran away with the division a couple of weeks ago. Dolphins are just fighting for a winning record at this point, although they still have like an outside puncher's chance to kind of sort of make the playoffs, but they need a lot to go their way. Broncos and Chargers are the subject of our dogfight tomorrow night. Broncos holding second in the division, Chargers in third. Chiefs have ran away with the division at 13-1, so that is that. And what else have we got? The Steelers have clinched at least a wild card, sitting at 10-4. They play the Ravens this week, and we'll get into why that is important later. Meanwhile, we do have the AFC South that has been wrapped up. Broncos helped the Texans out right there with that win, and that gets Houston in. Now, a couple of fringe playoff teams here that are sitting at 6-8. Technically, the Colts, the Bengals, and the Dolphins are still alive, but other than that, I really do think the playoffs are like pretty damn set here, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I don't really envision a world here where a lot of these teams are able to come back. And we'll get into some of these other schedules here soon. But first things first, I mean, we just got to address where these teams are coming from here each way. Broncos are coming off of a huge victory over the aforementioned Indianapolis Colts. It was a tough struggle of a game, which I did recap live on the Blue Show just a couple of days ago. So if you guys want to be a part of those live streams, I recommend hitting subscribe, liking the content. It helps out immensely. Now let's get ourselves a little further into this here. I'm not going to go super in-depth into that game recap, but the Broncos did manage to pull out a 31-13 victory over the Indianapolis Colts, which brought their record up to 9-5. And it's their first winning season since 2016, which is already kind of a huge thing in itself, because the Broncos have been awful for the better part of the last decade since winning Super Bowl 50. It's been what, 9-7, 5-11, want to say 6-10 in 2018, 7-9 in 2019, 7-10 I want to say in 2020, and then you had, let's see, 7-10, and then, 5-12 in 22, and then, yeah, it was bad. It's been bad. So a winning season already is, like, really just kind of nothing short of incredible, especially when you look at how the media was really painting this team at the start of the year. I mean, you had, I want to say it was The Ringer or The Athletic calling Denver the worst roster in the NFL. And there was a lot going against Denver. Now, a lot of people will point to their easy schedule, which is fair. My defense is that you can only play the teams that are in front of you. And that you are really, I mean, you just got to beat the teams that are in front of you. All you can do is take care of your business, mind your business. And the Broncos have done that this season so far. And so as we're going into this Week 16 matchup with the Chargers, a critical matchup for playoff seeding really, at this point, just with how long of a shot like the Dolphins, Bengals, and Colts have into Denver. Basically eliminated Indy from the playoffs just this last week on Sunday. So really, this game should only be about playoff seeding. Now, you've got the Chargers that are coming in off of 2 losses, notably coming off of an absolute ass whooping from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not a pretty game for the Chargers, and we have realized rather quickly that the Chargers offense does not really function without J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins has been the driving force for the Chargers, and if I remember hearing or seeing, reading right, however you want to say it, they will be without Mr. Dobbins for the game. Herbert's also a little banged up with a bit of an ankle thing. It's not going to keep him out of the game for sure, but it is something to keep an eye on, and I'll get into that here in a second. But firstly, I mean, we look at these playoffs like this is a game with playoff implications. All Denver has to do is win, and they're in. Denver can win this game and clinch a playoff spot, while the Chargers, they need the win here, but they need some help. Chargers need to win, and then they need the Bengals, Colts, and Dolphins all to lose or tie at some point, although I'm sure they will end up with some other clinching scenarios later on down the line. So, where do both of these teams stand just in terms of like team offense, team defense, yada yada yada? According to PFR, to Pro Football Reference, and this is without editing any of the filters or anything. This is just straight up, and it might be going off of points per game. They might have their own things that they go off of here. The Broncos are 10th, and I do know that they're 10th in points per game right now where things sit, while the LA Chargers are sitting squarely at 20th. Now we go look into passing offense, and we'll just do this. We'll do this off of yards to start out, because it's definitely an interesting dichotomy here. Neither team has been a super strong passing offense this year. Denver with 2,838 total, which I believe takes sacks into account. Yes, it is. So this is with sack yardage taken out. So Broncos 23rd, Chargers 25th, just with like 100 yards separating them here. And then we get into some of the more nitty-gritty stats, like touchdown percentage. Denver is 11th in touchdown percentage this year. In passing touchdown percentage at 4.5%, which is how many of their plays end in a passing touchdown, which is kind of astounding. Because, I mean, like, the passing has felt so inconsistent at times, although Bo Nix really did have that, like, nice stretch. While the Chargers aren't lagging too far behind with a solid 4.0 interception percentage. Denver faltered a little bit, especially with Nix's performance there. Denver sits at 20th at 2.3% on that one, while the LA Chargers sit at the very top with 0.5% interception percentage. Pretty incredible. In terms of passing touchdowns, Denver is actually ranked 11th in terms of those at 21, and they're riding up the coattails of the Chiefs, the Jets, who really don't matter here, and the Bills. They're only 4 behind the Bills. Of course, Joe Burrow, 36 touchdowns, absolutely scorching the league right now. While we look at the Chargers, and they are they're closer to the bottom of the league with only 16. They are tied in 23rd with the San Francisco 49ers at only 16. However, Justin Herbert has been incredible with the football this year, just extremely turnover averse. He's only thrown 2 interceptions this year, while Bo Nix is a little higher up on the list. They rank Denver at 14th, but they are tied at 11th most interceptions with the Vikings, Packers, Chiefs, and Niners. Which really, I mean, that is, you take off one game here of interceptions, and you've got Bo Nix sitting with 8, just like he was going into that game. Whatever, we're past that game. That game happened. Nothing we can do about it. If we go down to scoring offense now, this is kind of where things get interesting. You look at points per game. You've got Detroit in the 1, Buffalo at 2, so kind of your usual suspects. Baltimore at 3, Tampa at 4, Cincinnati at 5, which is kind of surprising seeing how good their offense has been this year. The Commanders at 6, Packers 7, Eagles 8, Vikings 9, Broncos 10, with a solid flat 24 points per game. Whether it's come via pick 6 or whether it has come on the heels of really just short fields, the defense has highly contributed to this too. They have they've got 2 fumble recovery touchdowns, 3 pick 6s. It's kind of insane what the Denver Broncos are doing, and really it should be like 4 pick 6s, but that is neither here nor there. The point is, they score points one way or another, whether it's in an opportunistic defense or what have you. Chargers are 10 spots down at 21 points per game, flat on the nose, just like the Broncos 24, scoring-wise. Their defense does not have the same scoring output by far. They have not recorded a safety this year, which really doesn't do a whole lot for anyone, but it is just kind of something to note here. That I just felt like pointing out, felt like something I had to talk about. So defensively, which I might have to, oh, here we are. Give me team defense. Defensively, both of these teams have been sick this year, and I mean absolutely wicked. Broncos and Chargers are both in the top 3. Broncos at 3, Chargers at 1 of just total defense here. We look at some of what's happened here, and it's crazy. Both teams in the top 20. Actually, hang on a minute. it's a little jank here. So Chargers are top 10 in least passing yards given up. Broncos are 17th. They haven't been bad this year, but they have fallen victim to just some unfortunate chunk plays that have kind of gotten them like killed at times or gashed. I look at the Browns game; they got gashed that game. It was kind of a rough game there, but yeah, it is what it is. Really, I'm not too mad at it. It is just kind of the way some of that shook out. Rushing defense in terms of just sheer yardage, the Denver Broncos rank 5th, which is a really good look for them. Meanwhile, the Chargers are 19th in total yards given up on run defense. So definitely less than ideal for them. You go look at yards per attempt given up here. Broncos are 2nd in least yards given up per carry, tied at 3.9 with a couple of other teams. Chargers, meanwhile, where are you? Are ranked 26th. The Chargers are giving up 4.7 yards per carry. It has been kind of rough for him this year, at least on that front. The defense is kind of out-kicking its coverage a little bit because they are a really bendy but don't break defense. So if I can go find scoring defense on this website real quick, you look at the defensive points per game here. Couple of teams tied up here at the top. Denver leading right there. Quote-unquote Eagles and Chargers are all sitting at 17.6. Each defense is really just trying to figure out who's the better defense here. But we go look at some of this. The Broncos have given up the least touchdowns in the NFL this season at 24. Field goals surrendered. They have given up a little bit of field position at times. They have surrendered 26 field goals. But they are leading the league, I guess, in the inverse of how many touchdowns they've allowed to score, which could bode well for a Chargers offense that hasn't looked the best and that is coming into this game without the key component that makes their offense work, J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins has been their workhorse this year, and it just has not worked for them with anyone else behind Justin Herbert. I don't know why. I don't know what that's all about. But the key component here is that J.K. Dobbins will not be in this game at all. So the Broncos are kind of going to get a free pass right there because, and really, if they allow Gus Edwards and I forget who else it is, Fehoko, if they allow Fehoko here to, or not Fehoko, God, what is his name? That's a receiver. I can't remember the guy's name, but at this point, if Denver allows either one of their, Vidal, that's right. So really, if Denver allows one of those guys to run just buck free on him, like, that is completely on them. And they're going to have to find a way to overcome that. So, like I said, Jaleel McLaughlin and Riley Moss were ruled out for Week 16 for the Denver Broncos. Neither one, let's see. So, McLaughlin injured a quad. Hopefully I don't accidentally switch scenes here. Nope, we're all good. Okay, so we go pull up the Broncos injury report. Now, take some of this with a grain of salt, because they had to kind of estimate with some of this. But you've got John Franklin Myers. He had a little foot thing going on. He was DNP Monday, Tuesday. Again, quote unquote. But he was full on Wednesday, which I believe might be their one actual practice, or that might be Tuesday. DJ Jones with a finger. He wasn't ruled out, so he appears to be good to go. Pat Surtain had that minor little low ankle sprain. He's good to go. He was full all week, estimates, whatnot. Riley Moss, he is showing some progress. He was a DNP estimate Monday, limited Tuesday, Wednesday. He is still out, sadly. But it's good to see him making a little bit of progress on that front. And then you have Jaleel McLaughlin out with a quad injury he suffered during during the Colts game. I can't think right now for some reason. On the Chargers end, there are a lot of guys that are either out, questionable, or doubtful. Will Dissly is out with a shoulder injury. Christian Fulton, he appears to have been cleared. He had a little knee thing going on. Cam Hart with a concussion is out, one of their other defensive backs. Justin Herbert with an ankle injury. That's going to be something to monitor, and I'll get why that is when we reach the keys to victory. Herbert will play, though. Hayden Hurst is questionable with a hip injury. Zion Johnson, guard, questionable with an ankle. Elijah Molden, another defensive back, doubtful with a knee. And then you have Otito Ogbonia, I think? Pelvis, he's questionable. He's a defensive tackle. And then Denzel Perriman, middle linebacker, he's got a groin injury. He is also questionable. So those are your injury reports for Thursday Night Football going into this thing. And now we go into my keys for victory, and some of this is going to stem on the statistics that we just went over. I did mention that the Chargers are giving up a lot of yards per carry this season at 4.7. Denver, this has to be the game that Denver figures out how to run the goddamn football, and I don't know if that comes in the form of putting Michael Burton in the backfield a lot more often, because if you have a fullback on the roster, why aren't you using him is kind of where I'm at here. You're not going to have Jaleel this week, so it is very, very possible that we see a guy like Blake Watson get elevated, or perhaps Tyler Beatty. I haven't heard anything on Beatty. He's not on the injury report, of course, so it'll be interesting to see what Denver opts to do there. But going into this, like, something has to give in this running game. Of course, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little bit of RPO-Bo. If we see a little bit of RPO-Bo, let him use his legs a little more than he has. Of course, you want to keep him upright and good for this playoff push that we're on. But if it means it's going to win you a game, get some more consistent play out of Bo, and maybe open things up in the rush lanes one way or another, I think that's kind of a sacrifice you're willing to make right there. You still want to keep him safe, but at the same time, you do need to get yards, so find a way to do that without risking him too much. And I one way or another, you have to open this run game up. And I think that this, and I feel like a broken record. If there is a defense to do it against, it is the Chargers, who are giving up 4.7 yards per carry. And that's just the way it is right now. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a little more Michael Burton coming out in kind of some strong I formations, or maybe just some straight up I formations. I expect some kind of heavy tight end sets this week. Of course, Denver running on a little bit of, I'm not going to say an abbreviated game plan, but I think I remember hearing Todd Davis say something about it on DNVR, where you kind of just take like 60% of your game plan, or maybe it was No Sean Moreno. You take like 60% of the previous game plan and kind of transfer it over, and then you add like 40 into that. So that's kind of what I expect Denver to do. But while we are at that, I think they can figure out how to run the ball this week. And again, we could see some Blake Watson, could see a little bit more of Audric Estime, although kind of the problem we're sitting with right now is until Estime gets some pass blocking down, he is not going to get a whole lot of snaps, which is something he's just going to have to figure out, which again is why I say we might see some Blake Watson. I really hope we see a little more Michael Burton in the backfield, not to hand off to him, obviously, although that would be kind of fun, but just to get an extra body back there out in front of your guys to make sure they have a little bit of running room there. Like I said, Chargers' run defense has kind of been bad. I say kind of. It has been bad this year, giving up 4.7 a carry. We just saw Bucky Irving and the Bucs go for over 200 yards against him. That is an exploitable weakness. And what that does, of course, is that's going to open up your pass game. Bo Nix should be able to just kind of step back, get some nice, easy throws. I think you've got to kind of beat into him, because he kind of reverted back to September Bo. During this Colts game, we won, and he did kind of turn it on in the fourth quarter. But I don't think this is a game that you can afford to start off slow, because this is still John Harbaugh and Justin Herbert we're talking about. Justin Herbert's a damn good quarterback, man. So the way that I'm looking at it is you have to find a way to start faster. And I think running the ball definitely plays a factor in that as well. But the defense has got to be ready to go. Because we have seen a good amount of times this season, first drive, team gets the ball and scores. And just scores on the defense. So we can't be having a ton of that. Another key to victory, and this is probably going to be my most crucial one. You have to pressure and hit Justin Herbert early. And I don't know if that looks like sending just a lot of blitzes. I don't know if that looks like just getting pressure with 4. Either way, you have to bang Herbert up a little bit. Like I said when I was given the injury report, Herbert's on a little bit of a gimpy ankle. And so really just the more you hit him, the less mobile he's going to be as the game goes on. And I think that's going to open you up to really get into the backfield to make some game-changing plays. I feel like Herbert always gets hurt against Denver, especially in like these kind of end-of-season games. I don't want that to happen. I hope the best for all these guys. It's just kind of a trend I've noticed for some reason, and maybe that was just a one-off thing. I can't remember if there was a second year that happened. But Herbert needs to be absolutely, like, you cannot let your foot off of his throat. You have to have guys in the backfield all goddamn game. Another thing, you can't let the Chargers running game pick up steam in any way, shape, or form without J.K. Dobbins. He wasn't on the injury report. Are they going to have Dobbins? Are they going to have Dobbins? And did I just accidentally switch scene? No, we don't. Okay, I'm not seeing anything saying that he's coming back. I'm not seeing anything that says he's coming back. So Chargers should still be without Dobbins? And from everything I've seen, from everything I've heard, they will be without J.K. Dobbins. So you cannot let the Gus bus get moving. You cannot let Vidal get going behind him. It's just something you got to do, because the Chargers are going to try to establish the run. They are a running football team that wants nothing more than to pound the ball down your throat. No pause. On the other hand, of course, I kind of already breezed over this. You got to find a way to run the ball. Open up Bo. I think you can do that with some kind of RPO Bo stuff. Whatever you want to do with that, I think Bo should be a little more involved with the running game. Not that I think it's going to happen, it's just something I think that could help. But regardless of what I feel, I am not the coach, and that's likely for a reason. And lastly, I did have one more key. You have to absolutely lock down Ladd McConkey. Ladd McConkey can not get free. And I imagine we'll see a combination of Pat Surtain and probably Jaquan McMillan on him. Surtain, he's not going to be like as quick or shifty now as Ladd McConkey, but he does have the length to kind of help work around that, which is something I think will play to his strengths. I don't think we're going to see Surtain on McConkey a whole lot, just because McConkey has done a lot of his work from the slot, which is why I'm kind of thinking here, like, we'll see a lot of McMillan on him. I don't think we're going to see any Chris Abrams drain on Lad McConkey, although we could. I'm not going to rule it out. I just don't think it's going to happen, mainly because that is their best target. I think he'll match up okay with Quentin Johnston or whoever's behind him. So, which I believe is Joshua Palmer. And so that will be, this secondary has been an advantage for the Broncos all year. I don't think they're really going to force a turnover out of Herbert, not in the conventional way. I think Nick Bonito is going to have to get back there to get a strip sack, which I'm cool with, because that bolsters his Defensive Player of the Year case massively. That is something we have really been monitoring this year since he's just kind of started blowing up on the scene. And so that is something I really think Denver has to find an opportunistic turnover to really turn the tides of this game. We go look at schedules now. We go look at schedules and the implications of this game. So we have already established, and I have it on the thumbnail, the Broncos can win and get in this week. A win over the Los Angeles Chargers clinches their spot in the 2024 NFL playoffs. Now, if you don't win here, however, you've got the Cincinnati Bengals and the Kansas City Chiefs in Week 17 and Week 18. The Chiefs, I think, is the more winnable game out of that, unless you think this is a Broncos team that can go into a shootout with Joe Burrow and come out on top. All Denver needs is a win in the next 3 weeks, and they're in. If they lose out, they can still get in. They would need a loss, another loss from the Colts, Bengals, and from the Dolphins. Otherwise, you open the door here for some of these floater teams that are sitting like 5% playoff chance. You open the door for them to get in. I think this is the game for Denver to win, and I think this is probably, I think this is the one they're going to win. If you're asking me. But I could see the Chiefs again as a win, especially if they're resting starters. That is a very likely win if the Chiefs are resting starters, or at least a more likely win, but we'll have to see how that goes. Bengals just really scare me right now because that offense is so damn good, and the Colts defense wasn't that good, but the Broncos kind of malfunctioned against them. So I wouldn't be completely shocked to see the Bengals maybe boat race the Broncos if it came to that. But like I said, I really think Denver can win this game. I really do. For pretty much all of the reasons I have listed, just stats, kind of the way both teams are playing. The Chargers might be a little hungrier coming off, and they might be ready to sock Denver in the mouth, but they are on a 2-game losing streak right now. And I think Denver has what it takes just to come in and establish their presence. It's really going to hinge on whether or not they can get that run game going, though. It really is. You go look at the Chargers schedule, and the Chargers have it much, much easier than Denver does, whether or not they win here. After this, they have New England and Las Vegas, which are, not exactly the toughest opponents here. I believe Chargers can clinch with a win tonight or tomorrow night, and then they'd get one against one of those next two teams, and I believe they would clinch that way. Otherwise, they win, they get some losses from around the league, and they also clinch that way. So, score prediction before I start going into some of this more kooky stuff. I've got the playoff predictor pulled up, and I'll switch my screen here to let you guys see that. I think this is one Denver pulls out. It could be last second, it could not be, but I'm calling 2017 here for Denver. I think Denver's offense can do just enough, and this is definitely a defense right now that can hold this Chargers team to less than 17 points, because this is a Chargers team that has not scored, I don't believe, more than 16 in the last 2 weeks. So we'll go verify that real quick. Of course, I do like to verify my claims. Okay, they haven't scored more than 17 in their last 3. I'm gonna make it 4 here. Broncos get the win. 20-17. I think you probably get 2 touchdowns out of Bo Nix. Maybe a rushing one, or maybe 1 pass, 1 rush with a running back in there. I don't know. Broncos win 2017. That is my score prediction, and it's now that we're going to come look at some kooky shit. Don't mind all of this. Hi, you're on YouTube one way or another. Playoff predictor. Denver has a path to the 5 seed. They need quite a bit to go their way. Maybe not as much as I'm thinking, but they do need some stuff to go their way here. Obviously, they got to take care of business here to get to 10-5. And for at least 3 days, that will put them in the 5 seed. That will put them in the 5 seed. I don't know if Houston winning here does anything for Denver. I don't think... They might. I'm going to go on the base that Mahomes is not playing. I don't think Patty Mahomes will be playing this one. Sorry, I had to flip back to YouTube. I can just look at my phone. That's basically my second monitor in case I have chat right now. You should subscribe if you want to chat. Anyways, we are rooting hard here for Pittsburgh and for Russell Wilson this week. I know it kind of goes against everything we have ever felt or ever thought about, but we have to root for Russell Wilson and the Steelers this week. Otherwise, 5 seed's not ours. 5 seed is not ours. I'm going to go with the KC win just for now, because I think that is probably the more likely way that shakes out, Wentz or Mahomes or not. Anyways, I don't really need to look at a whole lot of these other games here. Buffalo doesn't really matter in this equation. Indy's going to win that game, I imagine. Cincy will probably win that one. We'll do the important games here. So you go into week 17 now in the 5 seed, and this almost paints a scenario where Denver has to win out here, because Baltimore's probably not going to lose to Houston here. KC will probably beat Pittsburgh, I imagine. They'll probably lock up the 1 seed there in that way, and then Chargers will probably win that game. We're assuming Denver wins this game here to get up to 11-5. I think the Bengals are definitely the last. This is our path to the 5 seed. Now, if you take a loss here, you get dropped back down to 6. Next week becomes more important, because really it's just, what does Denver do? What does Baltimore do? We'll say Denver wins here, maybe get to 11-6. Baltimore, where are you guys? Where? Excuse me. Where are the Ravens on this chart? What? There we are. So you'd be rooting, in the event Denver does lose a game, you're rooting for a 4-12 Browns squad to take them out there to get Denver to that 5 seed. But even if Baltimore wins out from here, well, really, they have to lose this game in Pittsburgh. Otherwise, Denver doesn't get the tiebreaker. The scenario here to get Denver into the 5 seed is pretty much win out, or just win one more than the Ravens do during this stretch. And that is how the Broncos get to the 5 seed. We will review real quick. Let me go back to regular view right here. Quick review. Broncos have a short injury report, and it's really just McLaughlin and Moss that are ruled out. Chargers have a lot of key players that are either on the report or out with various injuries. Justin Herbert is a major key to victory for the Broncos. The Broncos should be able to get a lot of pressure on him with that gimpy ankle of his. Broncos should be able to shut down a run game that has been very unproductive without J.K. Dobbins, and that is one of the keys to stopping these Los Angeles Chargers. And as long as you shut down Ladd McConkey, I am pretty confident that the Broncos defense can snuff this Chargers offense out like a candle. Broncos offense needs to do just enough. You're looking to get the run game going a little bit more than you have lately, whether or not that's through Javonte somehow resurging, or you get a good game out of Estime, or maybe you put in someone like Blake Watson. I don't know how you get the run game going. Maybe you get Burton in there. Whatever it is, I think you're definitely going to need a lot more production out of that run game to go far. I think you maybe give Bo a little bit more RPO opportunity here, because that was some of the stuff that was working for him at times this season. I liked what I saw from some of that. And yeah, keys to victory are there. And with that being said, I think that is going to cap off the Orange Show. I appreciate everyone for showing up. Like the video and subscribe. I'm doing live commentary of this on Thursday night. Those are streams that have gotten me a lot of views, actually, and I've really enjoyed doing that. So if you want to be here for that, I recommend you subscribe, turn on notifications, so you can hear me yap with commentary as Denver goes on to play the Chargers. That will come tomorrow night. I'll probably start stream around probably 6:05. And yeah, I mean, those are always great times, great videos, and I am really excited for this. I really, really hope I get to announce the Broncos making the playoffs. So with that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful night. I will see you all tomorrow. Hopefully you've subscribed and liked the stream. And yeah, again, with that being said, go Broncos. Let's go clinch this playoff berth, and I'll